Young New Yorkers are moving in with nuns because the median one-bedroom in Manhattan now costs $4,680 a month, and the convent has availability. In May, for the first time in American history, solar power generated more electricity than coal, and Columbia University researchers just published a landmark paper showing precise, high-efficiency base editing of human embryos. Consider this your weekly wrap. News Side Quest, starting now. The Wall Street Journal ran a piece this week that is both a human interest story and an economic indicator. And the economic indicator part is the one I want to linger on. Young New Yorkers, priced out of the rental market, are turning to an unlikely solution: convents. Religious communities across the New York area have been quietly opening their doors to lay residents. Typically young women, though some communities accept all genders, who get a room, meals, community, and quiet in exchange for modest rent and compliance with community norms like curfews and shared responsibilities. The economics driving this are not subtle. Manhattan's median rent for a one-bedroom apartment hit $4,680 a month in May 2026, an all-time record. The citywide median across all 5 boroughs isn't much better. A sub-2% vacancy rate, strict zoning laws that have choked off new construction, and continued inbound migration have combined to produce one of the least affordable rental markets in American history. The convent option, by contrast, often runs a few $100s a month. The WSJ profiles residents who describe waking up to church bells, eating communal meals, and having a built-in community of people who are genuinely looking out for each other. One woman said it gave her the first sense of neighborhood she'd had since moving to the city. Another said the quiet was worth more to her than the savings. Jimmy McMillan was unavailable for comment. He was right then, and the numbers have only gotten more extreme. For a single person, there are actually worse situations than living with nuns. You have a room, regular meals, a community of people invested in your well-being, and a direct line to the big guy. In a city where loneliness is the default condition for a significant portion of residents, that's not nothing. What's the most unconventional living situation you've ever been in, and how did it actually go?
I'm a lawyer. I'm a janitor. Together we adopted a cute little kid. We're legal custodians. Get it?
In May 2026, for the first time in recorded American history, solar power generated more electricity in the United States than coal. Solar supplied 12.8% of U.S. electricity during the month, reaching an all-time high of 45.5 terawatt hours, a 17% increase from May 2025. Coal fell to 12.2%, its 4th lowest monthly share ever. Solar is now the 3rd largest electricity source in the country, behind only natural gas and nuclear. The 5-year comparison makes the shift look almost dizzying. In May 2021, coal supplied 19.7% of U.S. electricity, while solar accounted for 5.4%. 5 years later, those positions have essentially inverted. Coal's share has nearly halved. Solar's has more than doubled. I want to acknowledge the political context here because it's directly relevant. The week this milestone was announced, the Trump administration unveiled a $700 million support package for the coal industry, including funding for what would be the first new coal-fired power plants built in the U.S. in 13 years. The administration has also canceled solar projects and terminated $7 billion in funding for clean energy programs, and yet solar and battery storage accounted for 91% of all new electricity generation capacity added in the United States in the first quarter of 2026. The market is moving faster than policy because the economics are now unambiguous. Solar is cheaper to build and operate than coal, full stop. This is a cool technological milestone. This represents the completion of a transition that was being predicted as a distant possibility when I was younger, and is now simply a fact of how the American grid works. It happened faster than almost anyone projected, driven not primarily by regulation or ideology, but by the falling cost of photovoltaic technology. That's genuinely worth noting and celebrating across whatever political perspective you bring to energy questions. What's the most significant technological change you've witnessed in your lifetime that you think doesn't get the credit it deserves? The shift that happened so gradually it barely registered until one day you realized everything was different.
Hail science!
Researchers at Columbia University just published a landmark preprint that moves an important ethical conversation from theoretical to immediate. The team demonstrated the use of base editing, a more precise evolution of CRISPR gene editing, to successfully correct disease-causing genetic mutations in early-stage human embryos with relatively high efficiency. Unlike traditional CRISPR, which cuts DNA strands to remove or replace genetic material, a process that can cause unintended chromosomal damage, base editing chemically converts one genetic letter into another without making large cuts. Think of it as correcting a typo rather than tearing out a sentence. The team focused on correcting variants of two specific genes, PCSK9, linked to high cholesterol and cardiovascular disease, and HBG, linked to sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia. The preprint ends with careful language. Though this may be a step towards heritable editing, translation to a clinical context remains premature. Critics in the scientific community reacted with both praise and alarm. One concern raised by Nature: the editing, while precise, also created some unintended changes, off-target edits, meaning the technology is not yet clean enough for clinical use. Another concern raised by bioethicists is that a rush to commercialize the approach could happen faster than regulatory frameworks can keep up. This is getting to cause some controversy. The research, as described, is focused entirely on correcting severe disease-causing mutations. That's genuinely compelling medicine, but the same technology that corrects a sickle cell mutation could theoretically be used to influence traits like eye color, height, or other characteristics that are influenced by identifiable genetic variants. The distinction between treatment and enhancement is real, but it's also a line that has a way of moving. Cochlear implants were treatment. LASIK was enhancement. The question of where editing human embryos falls on that spectrum, and who decides, is one the scientific community is already debating loudly. Where would you personally draw the line? If this technology becomes safe and available, correcting a gene that causes a fatal childhood disease, yes or no? A gene linked to elevated cancer risk? A gene that influences height?
But your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
The Titanic series on side quests is in its final stretch. If you've been following along, you know where we are. If you haven't started, this is a good long weekend to go back to episode 1 and listen through. The whole arc, the ship, the night, the aftermath, is worth the time. Free condensed version for everyone, extended cut for paid subscribers. Find side quests wherever you get your podcasts.
Would you like to know more?
Therapy donkeys are proving such a hit at a psychiatric hospital in Ireland that organizers are looking to expand the program. Staff and patients alike report measurable improvements in mood and anxiety levels during and after visits. I may have to trade in my emotional support mole rat.
Oh, rats.
Experts are warning that using a period at the end of a text message reads as passive-aggressive or cold to younger recipients. The period, which for older generations simply signals the end of a sentence, now carries an emotional charge in informal digital communication. I've never paid much attention to punctuation in texts, but I do assume the person is furious with me if they don't reply within 24 seconds. We all have our things.
Who are you texting 50 times a day?
IDK, my BFF Joe.
A Guardian piece this week makes the most compelling case I've heard for leaving Bigfoot alone. There are cameras and drones everywhere, and if Bigfoot is real but still can't be credibly photographed after decades of looking, he has clearly made a deliberate decision about his relationship with humanity. We should respect Bigfoot's judgment on this. He's watched us for a long time. He knows what he's doing.
Bigfoot. Endangered mystery. In the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest dwells the strange and beautiful creature known as Bigfoot, perhaps. Sadly, logging and human settlement today threaten what might possibly be his habitat, although if it's not, they don't. Bigfoot populations require vast amounts of land to remain elusive in. They typically dwell just behind rocks, but are also sometimes playful, bounding into thick fogs and out-of-focus areas. Remember, it's up to us. Bigfoot is a crucial part of the ecosystem if he exists. So let's all help keep Bigfoot possibly alive for future generations to enjoy unless he doesn't exist.
A Pasadena police officer was accidentally shot by a fellow officer during what supervisors described as horseplay. The injured officer is expected to recover. Horseplay seems like a category that probably shouldn't apply to situations involving loaded firearms. The investigation is ongoing.
You shot me!
Okay, moving on.
You shot me right in the arm! Why did...
That's it for News Side Quest. 3 questions to close the week and head into the weekend. Your most unconventional living situation and how it actually went. The technological shift you think deserves more credit. And where you'd personally draw the line on editing a child's genes before birth. Email me at newssidequest@gmail.com or hit me up in the Substack comments. Have a great weekend. See you Monday.